One in a place where we belong. My name is Chris Potenza, and I play Jude Jen from 16. Chris MacLean from Total Drama. Trevor, sidekick, anyone? Yeah, let's hear it for the kids. Anyways, I'm a voice actor. And we're going to talk all about voice acting and stuff. And now, I'd love you to meet the lovely and talented Megan Fahlenbock.
Nice. Yes, I am Megan Fahlenbock, and I am, I don't know, you may have heard of a show called 16. I'm Jen Masters from 16. Went on Total Drama Island and had a lot of characters through the years. Actually, Christian did not mention a show that maybe some of you got the chance to see. We did a pilot called Foolish Girl. I was Foolish Girl. It was an underground cartoon magazine, a little animated.
I think it started off as a comic strip.
Book. That's what I meant, comic strip. And then and Christian played that guy.
Yeah.
He was that guy.
And that guy sounded.
I was Foolish Girl, and he was that guy. And little hearts went in my eyes when I said that guy.
You know what's funny about that? Megan and I have been working together since we started. For me, it was like 10 or 12 years ago.
Yeah.
And Megan and I are very fortunate because we just sound like us in everything we do. Like when we did Foolish Girl, that was one of our first things that we did together, and I just sounded like this. That was it. And then,
wow, you sounded a lot like Jude.
Exactly. I remember when I auditioned for Jude, I couldn't get arrested. I couldn't find a job in the voice world because I was going out for everything that wasn't sounding like me, and I was trying to be something I wasn't. And then finally I went out for 16, and they said, he's a chilled out 16-year-old skater dude. So I talk like this. Then I auditioned for Total Drama. And they said, he's like a 30-year-old sort of Ashton Kutcher meets Jeff Probst host to a show. So I talk like this. And then I auditioned for Sidekick. And they said, he's a bratty 12-year-old boy. So I talk like this. 3 paychecks, 1 voice. Making it work. How about you, Megan? How did it start for you?
I've just always just done this voice. Just like this. Jen Masterson, type A. It's all for, it's the same voice, but this is where you hear when people ask us, like, was it easy getting into voice work, or how'd you get into voice work? Well, we were actors first, like that's what we are. So we just use our voice and we just act it differently. So, every once in a while someone will come up to me and say, oh really, you played Jen and Gwen? I never would have, I had no idea. I was like, really? Because they're the exact same voice. But obviously, the acting has really made you see these characters as two very distinct characters. So, that's something to really keep in mind. Like, I'm so glad you actually did mention the real natural voice, because I heard from a couple of people that are probably here today as well, who have been working on different characters, and they said, one girl just said to me, she said, I finally got the chance to just do my own voice, and it was so much easier, right? So much more range, and I said, well, that's a really good lesson. You can play around with your voice and try and find different sounds and different characters, but you really want to stay true to yourself and true to your voice, and it's the same with acting. Like you kind of want to use the real emotions that you really feel as you, and then it just changes with the character because you're portraying a different character, but it's still you, and that's what makes it so real and believable.
Voice acting is puppetry, right? And the sock, the puppet, is your natural voice. anything else you put on top of that is an accessory. For instance, here's a horror story. I was cast as the voice of Scaredy Squirrel. I did it for about 7 episodes. It was a bunch of other people, and they couldn't find it. And then Terry McGurran, who plays Jonesy, was also the writer and story editor. He was Scaredy Squirrel, but they were like, yeah, it's not exactly right. So I auditioned, and they said, oh, perfect.
So my voice was like way up here.
And you see how it sort of cacked out because I've been using my voice a lot. But the thing is, I got let go because I couldn't do it for 4 hours because I was trying to make up scripts. So that's when we say, like, use your own voice, because you're going to be in a booth for 2 hours, and if you, because some people are like,
Oh, I do a lot of voices. I do all that crazy stuff.
and blah, 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 and I want to be a voice actor. You do that for 2 hours, you are done. You're not going to work for like the next month, so it's about pacing. So
Because you're not going to be able to talk for the next month.
yeah, so don't think just because you're doing a funny voice that is voice acting. That is an impression of something. Voice acting all comes from your original voice. That's why Megan and I, everything that we've done sounds like us, and it's very comfortable. But we fall into the category of more of our voices have a personality that they can put a skin to, whereas other people like Scott McCord, who plays
Trent.
Owen and Trent and Trevor Troublemario's dad, and Owen. Did I say Owen?
Yeah, Owen. And then Yin Yang Yo is another
Yin Yang
one.
Yo, but he does a lot of different voices. I mean, I didn't know he played Owen until like 2nd season, because I was like, that's McCord? But that guy can change his voice, but he can also do it for
Sustain
2-3 hours at a time. Just a show of hands, how many people are interested in becoming voice actors? Yeah, so this is it, eh? All right. Don't hit your head. You'll have time.
You want me to tell a horror story?
Yeah, tell a
This is
horror
well,
story.
you just made me think of something, and it actually,
Oh, wait, sorry, just
okay, go ahead.
before I forget. So anyways, I got fired as the voice of Scaredy Squirrel because I couldn't do it. I tried, and I tried really hard. I was like, oh, please like me, and I tried,
And I was really pitching up high.
and my voice cracked, and it got raspy, and they had to let me go. So it's one of those, don't overact or try to fit into it. Do whatever is in your range. Otherwise, you get fired. That's so that's it.
And getting fired really sucks, because it's so hard to get hired. And once you get hired, you really don't want to get fired. So I have it was actually doing Foolish Girl, and it was really it was early on in my career. I think it was one of my first or second jobs. I think I'd just done Monster by Mistake. I don't know if anyone remembers that show. I played a character. Do you remember me from Monster by Mistake?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember what my character name was?
I'm trying to remember.
Red?
Oh, Red, yeah.
Red, yeah. And then I think I did, I think I voiced a video game. I think I was Rogue in the X-Men video game. And then I booked this pilot called Foolish Girl that we were hoping was going to turn into, something like 16 or Total Drama Island, but it didn't. It stopped at a pilot, even though it was really cool. It just was a little too underground or something about the marketing or whatever. Regardless.
It's all timing, really.
It's just, you just never know what's going to catch. You may get, there's so many. I could go off on a million tangents, but what I wanted to say about my horror story, so I was fairly new in it, and so we were going through the script, Foolish Girl, and I was Foolish Girl throughout. I think I was in every scene. I was in every scene with different characters, and I had a lot of scenes even by myself. And at about page 3, it was going very well, and it was my natural voice. It was me. It was cool. I was Foolish Girl. I was just this like kind of quirky me. It was like, it was like a really nerdy, kind of loner girl that just loved that guy, and she had a friend named Coffee Slut, and so and she had a little friend that helped her out, and she was always she was debating all this. So it's still my voice. It's just the character trait was very different from Jen and Gwen. But on about page 3, she had this. She's allergic to cats, and she has a cat come. Her roommate's cat roommate. Her roommate's called the roommate. Roommate's cat comes and sits on her face, and she wakes up and she's completely puffy, and she has this massive sneeze. And I was like, oh, right on, I'm gonna like totally make this sneeze like amazing. So I did this massive like, and I really blasted it out, and like, and then I went to say my next line, no voice. I pooched my voice because I just went so big. I just pushed it. It was an awesome sneeze. I mean, it's the sneeze that everyone should have when they do it, but you should do your sneeze, these things, at the end of your session. And I cannot believe this could have been, it was so bad, I really couldn't talk, and I started to panic.
Which only makes it better.
Worse, and I think everyone in the booth, because we were about 15 minutes in, and they still had me for 3 hours and 45 minutes. We had a lot to record, and I was like, oh, I can't talk. And the director, I think was Marilyn, and she said, why don't you go out and have a cup of tea or something? And I was like, yeah, let's see if I can say that will help. I don't know what happened. I think a miracle happened that day, because the tea did help, and I somehow found my voice, and I got through the day. But that's the lesson. You have to warm up your voice. You don't do any crazy sneezes or coughs or hacks or cries or screams till the end. And most voice directors will suggest that anyway, but some won't. Some will just assume you can do it. And I think you really have to, you got to be good to this.
There's a reason why this happens, and it's a science, because you're enthusiastic, and when you're doing stuff, you always say, because my characters that I mostly do when I first started, there was a cartoon called Brace Face.
Yeah, I did an episode of that too.
Screech. I don't know if it's foggy, but there was the white guy that just yelled a lot, that sounded like he had a big like afro. Do you guys remember? I don't know. Screech. I forget the name of the character. Anyways, it eludes me now. It's such a long time. But when I first started, I was the yelling guy. Now the reason Megan's voice cacked out was because she went, achoo! When you make a scream or you do like a loud yell, what happens is your vocal cords, they slam together, and they slam too hard, and they go bam! And then there's air. It'll just, the muscles just short out. And now you're talking like this, because all it is air, because your vocal cords, every time they touch, they vibrate. There's a membrane, so you blew your cords. That's what happens. So, if you're going to a record, or even if you're doing something that requires your voice for long times,
a lot of water. You drink a lot of water.
A lot of water.
Do a really good vocal warm up before to get
no dairy. Don't put any cream or any dairy products in your coffee.
I do, but I just drink a lot of water.
Drink a lot of water.
I do have a little bit of that, but the vocal warm up, a really good thing to do if you are finding your voice is the type of voice that can't get tired a lot, besides drinking a lot of water, is boiling ginger, fresh ginger, and sort of making a tea into that. And put honey in that, and put honey after. But that's a really good if you're recording something.
So we're going to open it up to some questions, because I'm sure a lot of you voice actors you have some questions that we can sort of help out, because we can just talk and talk and talk about all of our awesomeness and peaks and valleys. So
I just wanted to add that for me when singing, that I use hot water with lemon and honey. That usually clears me right up.
Yeah.
Lemon's good.
Yeah, lemon and honey are good.
Hot water, steaming.
I do recommend ginger as well.
Absolutely.
Just saying.
Is there anybody that's getting into voice acting that has some questions about the business, about anything?
Hi. I recently, 2 years ago, I took Kathy Westlake's voice acting workshop.
Who's Kathy?
Kathy Westlake.
Westlake. Is that out here?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I just would have said I didn't know who she was.
She was in Cyber 6. She's in My Little Pony.
That's it. Okay. That's it.
My Little Pony.
My Little Pony. That's it.
I
Okay.
also took a small another workshop at the Vancouver Acting School. I'm just wondering what would be the next best step for me to take after taking those 2 workshops.
Well, what did you learn from the workshop? Did you find they were beneficial?
Yeah, I know certain enunciations.
Yes?
And various scripts I can practice from. And
the best thing you can do is, well, you want to get a demo, and you want to get an agent, and you want to get your voice out there. The best thing to do is because I also teach this stuff back at home, but mostly teach like kids because they're easier to work with and stuff, and they're using real kids' voices and stuff now, as opposed to using women playing young boys and stuff like that. So what I always teach them is read a lot. Read out loud. Kids' books are the best, and if you can read that and record it, but in your own voice, that and the back of the cereal box, and you're in the shower, read the back of the shampoo bottle, and just keep reading and recording in your own voice. And then after a while, when you're used to that, what you need to do is then you can accessorize it. Then you can start going lower or pitching higher and doing, or accents, but only after you've read in your own voice for a bit, so you get used to it, because you'll know your range. Then do that. Then, when that's good, when you feel comfortable in reading and speaking out loud, then go and find a place, like if they offer the workshops, find a studio that does demo tapes.
Yeah, and there's like also from the Captain Westlake voice acting workshop. It gave me like some papers like for good places to do demos and agencies.
Yeah, and then look for agencies as well. And then if you go to ACTRA, which is the Actors Union, there's a book, and it lists all the agents, and it's on a star system, and you'll see that some of them are just voice. You'll see that some of them are just mostly
Theater
or theater or
extra work.
yeah, exactly. They break it down, but you want a principal agency. And even though there is most work in the voice world is non-union, but it's not just animation. It's like
lots of radio and television is non-union now,
like commercials,
especially up here.
television.
But that's where you're going to get started. I didn't start in cartoons. You start in radio ads. And
So you probably learned how to break down a script and do all that kind of stuff in some of your workshops, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's exactly.
And you need more time in a booth.
Behind the microphones. You get nervous. It's nervous. It's a new place. It's hard to catch your breath at first when you're behind the mic in a studio.
How beneficial is websites like Voice Registry, Voice 123? How beneficial is it to your career? Like if you're just starting?
If you're just starting?
Yeah.
I think it is beneficial because the voice banks and all that they do comb them all the time. Like I said, 85% of the work out there for voice is non-union. I can't do video games because most video games are non-union. I can't do a lot of anime because it's non-union. Yeah, anime is anime is the porn of the animation world. It's cheap and there's a lot of it. Because if you notice in anime, they have, the mouths are big and the eyes are big, and they do that because what they do is they create the stories, or they create the animation and the stories over there, but then it's all shipped out to all the different countries and markets. And so they take it and they write their own scripts however they want. And that's how it's done.
And that's why the faces are just.
Yeah, it's just like that, and that's why.
Japanese can come out, or
it's
Scottish.
And it's not like doing what we do, where we're talking and we're just voice acting, because it's like doing karaoke. You have these lines that come in, and you have to time it just right. And it's very different. It's almost like doing
Porn?
porn. I don't know what kind of porn you watch, but not me. No, but they're like, it literally is like doing karaoke, and it's not really acting. You're just getting the lines out. And usually with anime, it's usually they do like one actor will play like 10 parts,
And make way less.
And make them way less. Yeah.
Yeah. It's under the term dubbing.
Yeah,
has a
dubbing.
different-
That's the word I was looking for.
Not porn. Dubbing.
But to answer your question, though, those things are beneficial, but it's like any other business. It's who you know, right? And it's a numbers game. I don't know about Megan, but I auditioned for 6-7 years, and I didn't book anything in Voice World until I found the one thing that hit. And then it was like, well, I'm the skater dude guy.
Yeah, that's usually called something I've heard in classes that I've taken is called your signature voice. Find your signature voice, and that's kind of what Christian's talking about. He kind of found his signature voice after 7 years or whatever, and that's what kind of hit, and that worked for him, and it worked for them, and that's what he's marketed himself on. And you know, what people might say that's typecasting. When you're being typecast, that's actually a good thing because that's when you start working more and more.
Yeah, and
people
don't give up.
Yeah.
It's discouraging, I know, but it's also a numbers game. And when a show is cast, it comes from the production. Let's say Nelvana, they want to do a new cartoon. They'll put out a breakdown that goes to all the agents, and they say they'll give character descriptions, and the agents will look at it and go, oh, I know that this person is good at that type of thing. So they get sent out. Now, there's the first tier, and that's everyone that works on cartoons. That's already in. Then there's the second tier, and those are people that have just gotten a job, like one job, they finally broke through. And then there's the third tier, and that's people that are just trying to get into the business. Those auditions never make it down past the second one ever. It's usually booked right off at the top. So there's a lot of people in the third tier, less people on the second, and even fewer. It is literally the same 20 people on every cartoon. So, you know, it's one of those, don't get discouraged, because each one of us has put in like 10 years of no thank you.
There's 5 stages of a voice actor. Who is Chris Potenza? Who's Christian Potenza, stage 1. Second stage, let's give this Christian Potenza a try. Third stage is, we need Christian Potenza. Fourth stage, we need someone who sounds like Christian Potenza. Fifth stage, who is Christian Potenza? So it is really the stages, and then it can loop.
Yeah.
It can loop. So another reason why not to get discouraged, because it is a roller coaster. There's the highs, there's the lows, and it really sucks sometimes. But if you love what you do, then that's what keeps you going with it, and it's a pretty awesome career, and it's pretty family friendly sometimes. Sometimes you only have to work 2 hours and you can pick up your kids after.
It's awesome. Yes, my friend.
Quick question with regards to productions in Toronto, where you guys live
Yeah.
and work, productions in Vancouver. I understand way back when I did Reboot, we did booth stuff here, and the animation was done here as well. But now it's kind of a cross. So are you just basically now going into a booth and voice and just
Patching through.
Yeah, you do a
and
lot of
same with
patching.
stuff in the States. I'm just curious if you ever work in the States.
I do. They don't tend to like to patch people through. They'll patch me through if I'm away shooting something and they want me. It's usually very beneficial to be in the booth with the voice director and the director. And the writers are there sometimes, you know, because they got to change things. So patching through is kind of hard because the relationship you have, just because you know how to do the voice doesn't mean that you have full picture. You can be way off. Like, I've read a script or not read a script and just showed up and just read the lines because it's like, yeah, I got it. I'll read it as I do it. You can be missing the mark where you think, well, I'm going to do this because it's funny, but it actually doesn't fit into the show. That's where the voice directors who have pieced it together with the director and the animators are like, nope, it has to be this way. So that's why patching through. So a lot of work moves. Like sometimes Toronto's really hot right now because we have the head offices. You know what I mean? And we're cranking out a lot of good stuff. Whereas Vancouver had all the video games for a while, and they were doing a lot of cartoons. But it just keeps going back and forth, really. But you can be patched through, but they don't usually like to do that too much.
Yeah. Oh.
What's that? Yeah, she's back there.
Oh, yeah.
are you asking us like how do people find us to be in their stuff, or?
Like, do you want to hire us? Is that what you're asking?
Because we'll do it.
We will. Well, you just ask us.
Well, usually it'll go through like ACTRA, and they have programs that are like the TIP program, and CPIP and co-op, and it's a very affordable way to fund your. I produced a film called Moon Point years ago, and that went through the TIP program, where I was able to take union actors and pay them like nothing. Because it was like I only had $38,000 to do this like $400,000 looking thing. So, you know, then they allow that and they agree to it. Where instead of them making like, you know, $2,000 a day, I pay them $200 a day. So you can go through certain programs, and then a breakdown is given out to agencies, and that's how they find us. Or people will call our agents directly.
Yeah. I mean, there's also things through schools as well. Like I have done short independent films through. I think I did one through a student at Sheridan College in Ontario, and there was some agreement with ACTRA, and they didn't have to pay me anything.
Yeah.
And I did this full. I was the star of the short film. It was all about me, and it was great for me. But I didn't make any money. But it was a great experience, especially when I was first starting. And I was still ACTRA, so I wasn't breaking any rules, because you really can't do a non-union thing. If you're with ACTRA, it's against the law.
Speaking of finding people and everything, for those of you that want to get into the voice world, there is a thing called loop grouping. And that's where they take a movie or a television show or even a cartoon, and they have to create these scenes where people are talking in the background. Because when they're recording, let's say Megan and I are doing a scene, and it's just us two talking in a crowded restaurant, they still have to get the sound of a restaurant or somebody walking by saying something. So loop grouping is a great way to get into the voice world, because you go into the booth and you just talk like rhubarb, blah, 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 and you just talk gibberish, and they mix it in the back. And that's a good way to get into, you know, sort of voice world and meet people in the studio. Also, another one is when we do cartoons, they do something that's called a Laika. And that is, a Laika is the name of the first dog the Russians they shot into space. A little beagle named Laika. So in cartoons, what they do is they create this, it almost looks like an animatic, and it's just very crude drawings.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just the animators that are in there just going, and they're doing our voices, or they're acting it out just for timing. But sometimes what they do is they'll take people to just be that voice or something just for the guide track. So they're drawing and stuff, and they're like, here, read the lines. So you're doing our lines before we get to them. And that's called a Laika. So look at production, look at some studios that do animation, and ask to do their guide tracks, scratch tracks, or Laikas. And just don't expect to get paid for it. But the experience you'll get, you'll be in the booth, you'll learn the language that's being spoken, you know, about, you know, find the peaks and valleys, or pace up, pitch down, all that stuff. You will gain knowledge, and that's free training, basically, on how to do it. So look into that as well. That's a great, to answer your question, like to get into stuff, or to get out there, I would do that as well.
Loop groups. Loop groups and scratch tracks, like as. Yeah. What was your question earlier?
Yes. In the voice acting industry, how, what's the right word? How useful is singing?
Amazing.
Really, you can't go wrong. Like just anything is useful. Like if you can do anything, like any extra thing you can do, put it on your resume.
Because that strengthens your vocal cords.
Yeah.
If you do scales every day, I don't do them anymore because I just got lazy. But when sometimes, like in the winter time when my voice gets harsh and it's cold, I will do this whenever I get a chance. I just go do, do, re, mi, re, do. As monotonous as it is, it also tunes your ear, because your inner ear and how your voice sounds is very different than what is actually happening. So record these and do these singing and do the scales. Always do scales all the time as much as you can. Find a hallway, find anything, but record it and listen to it, and you'll hear how your voice changes when the more you sing.
Okay, that brings me to my next question. Do you mind after the session I can sing for you?
Absolutely, we would love to hear you sing.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Question at the back there?
Just to correct you, we haven't totally made it.
We're trying to arrive.
We're still trying to get the gigs to last forever. Go ahead.
You guys end up working like second jobs just to pay bills?
Yes.
Yeah, you gotta do whatever you gotta do.
Absolutely. I still do that. There are times, because listen, we do the commercials, we do the cartoons, we get paid for the day, and then a year and a half later, the cartoon comes out, and then it's on TV. We've already been paid for that, and that thing is, that check is long gone. You know.
Yeah, and if you get a show like Total Drama Island, sometimes you get voted off early on. So you end up only doing 2 episodes and not 24, like Chris MacLean.
Whatever. But it's true, you never know. I mean, like, hey man, I was Scaredy Squirrel for 7 episodes. I thought I was going to be Scaredy Squirrel for like however long it went. Nope, gone. They can change their mind, they can do, and that happens a lot. Sometimes they do, you don't even notice it, that somebody's been fired and been replaced because somebody did a voice match. They do that. Or if it's early on, and it hasn't aired yet, somebody will do an entire season and then they'll turf them, and then they get replaced. So yeah, nothing is stable. And here's one, I got paid. You know that movie, The Nut Job?
Yeah.
I was in that.
Me too.
But did you actually make it to the stage? To
No.
the screen?
No.
I played Johnny. I played one of the the little hedgehog guys. And
Who replaced you?
Gabriel Iglesias. Yeah, he replaced me because they thought the distributor, they aired it and they played it in front of a focus group, and the distributor said, we want it to sound a little more ethnic. And I was like, well, I'm playing an Italian. You know what I mean, with Joe Pesci. I was like one of these guys, you know, hey, oh. But they wanted it more Hispanic guys, so they brought him in. Because that guy also had a few movies that did well for that distribution company. So they didn't even tell me I got replaced. I found out 2 days before it premiered that I wasn't in the film anymore. And you go to IMDb, and I'm still up there as being on it. But the thing is, I got paid for 1 day. That was it, and I'm not even in the thing anymore. So you just never know. So yes, always find jobs. There's no shame in making a living in this country.
Yeah, or, I don't even know if I want to tell anyone this. This is a really bad one.
Let's hear it.
So, I don't know if some of you might know, I had a part in Resident Evil, The Apocalypse. I'm at the beginning of the film, and I was the coworker that was running up the stairs being chased by the undead. Anyway, I have this great scene. My coworker locks me out. I get bitten. I get out finally, but I get bitten. The guy comes down in a helicopter, which, by the way, the good thing about shooting that scene was the weather was really bad in Toronto for many days, so I kept arriving on set and they'd be like, oh, we can't shoot the scene today. So I think I got paid for like 5 more days than I needed to, and I was doing my own stunts, so it was great. Anyway, he comes down and he's like, get away from the edge, and I say, I know what happens when you're bit, because there's no going back, and then I jump off the building. So I got brought in to do the what do you call it when you do the dubbing after, when you have to do the voice? ADR, additional voice recording. Anyway, this is what you do a lot when there's a lot of sound. That you do your lines on the day, and you do your scene on the day, and you're often brought in many months later when the film is almost ready to go, and you do an ADR session where you actually see the movie almost ready to go, or the show almost ready to go, but there's been some outside noises. They want to get your voice clearer, and it's a hard thing. Sometimes it's really hard because in the moment, in the action, like on the roof with the helicopter and all those undead coming at me, is a very different scene than like coming into a room kind of like this and having to imagine all that and remember what I did a year and a half ago, possibly. Regardless, I did my ADR, and they kept asking me. They said, "Can you make your voice higher? Because you sound a lot like Mila Jovovich." And I said, "Well, this is my voice. Like, this is my voice. Like, I did. I pitched it up as much as I could, and I felt like it was, performance-wise, I got into it, and I thought I did a great job. It was a great job. Like, I'm a good actor. I did a great job." And I pitched my voice as high as I could, and then, and they seemed really happy with it. And I don't know if you guys have seen the movie. It is not my voice. They got someone else to do my voice. Someone with a high voice. Doesn't sound anything like me. So I can't even, I hate the movie. I can't watch the movie. It doesn't feel like me up there. It's me. My acting's phenomenal, but it's not my voice. And it's not my voice. Not because I don't have a great voice, but because I sound too much like Mila Jovovich. And she's the star of the movie, and I'm not. And I'm just like, we'll just get some other girl to voice her. And it's a real, it hurts me. It's sort of like getting slightly fired.
Yeah.
Kind of felt slightly fired, and I can't use it on my reel because it doesn't feel like me up there. It's not me. It doesn't feel like my performance even though it's my performance.
You know how
You
many
should dub
cartoons?
for her next film.
Yeah. I could be dubbing her voice. I should be dubbing her voice. Yeah.
It happens, man. It's like the airbrushing of voice world. It's like it happens all the time. But you know how many movies and cartoons that Megan and I absolutely hate because we were up for it and it wasn't? It's between
Second choice.
Second choice.
It's basically a flip of a coin.
Yep.
And unfortunately, our heads landed down.
Yeah.
So they picked the tail.
Yeah, and it's true, man. Like, you can audition and audition. They love you. The director can love you, and they love you and stuff like that. But the producer wants their little nephew to get the part. You just never. Whatever the reasons, there's always other people that don't like you.
So even when you have made it, like we have, these things happen. So I mean, this is a really, I guess at this point, we're basically saying it's a really hard business, even when, and I'm sure to you, it looks like we're already doing these hit series. We're already like working. We've got great agents. We're getting in doors that probably feel like really far from where you are right now. Even when you get to there, it's still a kind of a crapshoot.
Yeah.
And it really is. It's a hard business. And I guess, if you're really thinking about whether or not you want to do it, or it's not all, you may be excellent. You may have an amazing voice. You may be you're probably an awesome voice artist or actor or whatever. There's still no guarantee. And you just have to really love what you do and work really hard and put your fingers in many pots. Like Christian hosts TV shows. He does. We both do tons of stuff. I'm doing stand-up comedy. I'm hosting stuff. I'm doing whatever. Like, do you do this? Yes, I do.
I didn't start out as a voice guy. We're actors. We just auditioned. I was like commercial guy. I was doing like, I'm the giant yellow toothbrush and the Listerine thing. But it was those commercials that got me because the people doing cartoons were like, get that guy. He'll play, and that's how so one thing leads to another.
Yeah.
But I'm going to leave you guys with this because we got to go. But if you really want to do this, the healthiest way to approach this is by considering it a hobby. Just keep it as a hobby and always have fun. And just like, if you take it too seriously, you're going to choke yourself because you're going to meet more rejection than not. But if you're just having fun and keep it as a hobby, next thing you know, you get paid. And next thing you know, you got enough money to get a demo reel. And next thing you know, you're hanging out at this place, in this studio, and you're making friends. It's a lifestyle. If you want to make it a career, it's a lifestyle. So watch your cartoons, listen to the radio, start writing down things you don't like. And here's another trick. Take a voice quality of somebody over here and another voice quality of another person and braid them. And that way make it your own. Instead of mimicking somebody straight up, because that's somebody else. There's Disney actors who get fired, they're done with them, and they can't get a job because they've been playing Goofy, Mickey, Donald, and all these characters that everyone else can do. But they're voice actors, and once they're done, they're done. They have nothing to show for it. So make these voices your own, and it's okay to steal. Go for your feet. Yeah, take it, but just, you know how you mask it? You just take somebody's a voice and then take something of your own and just braid it into the voice, make it your own, and all of a sudden it's an original. But it's a ripoff.
I've been practicing voices when I'm at home. Is that like a one of the? It's just that when I'm usually like when I'm at home and usually
Yeah.
stuff, I usually do like voices.
The best thing to do is record them and listen to them back. And get other people, like I said, read children's books because they're simple.
Just make all little characters. Children's books are great because you can already picture the characters, so you can make your own voice to that character.
And inanimate objects become full of life, and you know, there's and there's a narration, so that's why kids' books are the best.
Don't Let the Pigeon Drive the Bus is a great one. Yeah, it's a great book out there. Go ahead.
Dr.
Sure,
Seuss books are
absolutely,
fantastic.
and
Those
that's
are
really
great
good for
exercises.
diction. Yeah.
Absolutely. Listen, guys, you know
I'm so
what?
excited.
If you want to talk more, come down to our booth because we got to get out of here. But come down, and I'd love to hear your, talk to you more about voice acting and stuff like that. And come get some swag from us too.
Absolutely, and if you want me to hold your baby, I'll do that too. All right.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.